All right, so we had a great trip to Smelt Camp, have a whole cooler stuffed with smelt, and now it's time to fry some of these little buggers up. Today I'm going to be working on a recipe I've tried a few times in the past. It's based on Kentucky Fried Chicken's 11 secret herbs and spices, which is one of those recipes that was very closely guarded. It was kept under wraps for well over 60 years until 2 or 3 years ago there was a reporter from the Chicago Tribune. He was assigned to write about the history of Colonel Sanders and his chicken. He went down to Kentucky where he actually met with the Colonel's nephew who had worked at the original shop as a child and had an extensive scrapbook of history on Kentucky Fried Chicken. So they sat down with the reporter, they were flipping through the scrapbook, and one of the things that caught the reporter's eyes was the last will and testament of Colonel Sanders' wife. And he noticed handwritten on the back of the will was a recipe, and above it it said 11 spices, add 2 cups white flour. So the reporter initially, realized he might be onto something big. This could be the actual secret recipe. So he asked the nephew, and he kind of smiled and he said, the secret is the white pepper. Nobody was using white pepper back in the early 50s when Colonel Sanders started his restaurant. So the reporter took a picture of the recipe. He went back to Chicago. They got a test kitchen. They actually made a batch of fried chicken with this recipe. They ordered some chicken from the local KFC and they tried them side by side, and it was eerily similar, so they were very close to kind of cracking the code. But the chef that prepared it said, this is just something that's not quite right. It was something a little bit different. So they made it again. This time they added a 12th secret ingredient, monosodium glutamate, also known as MSG, and that kind of sealed the deal. And they did check with KFC, and they did actually admit that they do use MSG in their recipe. KFC still denies that this recipe is accurate, but anybody that's tried it says it's pretty darn close, and it's definitely finger-licking good. So today we're going to fry up some smelt in the style of Kentucky Fried Chicken. All right, first step is we got to prepare our smelt and clean them up. One of the first things you'll notice with these, if you smell them, if you took a big old whiff of that, it's got a very distinct scent of like cucumber to it. It's not fishy at all, but definitely quite a strong smell. And these guys are fairly easy to clean. Basically, we're just going to cut off the head and remove the guts. You can eat the fins, the bones, everything else is all edible. All right, first step, pop off the head. Now we're going to cut along the bottom, right up to the vent. And there's really not a whole lot inside of them. And it's mostly milked and raw. That's a boy. But really not a lot of guts inside of them, not a lot of digestive tract. Just gonna rinse that all out. And you'll also notice that there's a row of dark meat right below the spine. I'm not exactly sure what that is. I am not a marine biologist, but anytime I see dark meat in fish, I try to remove it. So I'm just going to take the back end of a butter knife and just scrape that stuff, whatever it is, right out of there. One more quick rinse, and everything that left is perfectly edible. We're going to eat these bones and fins and all. Dog goes in, dog goes out, dog goes in, goes back. No begging. Go lay down. Go lay down. Now it's time to blend up our flour mixture. We have 2 cups of white flour. And to that we are going to add 4 tablespoons of paprika, 3 tablespoons of white pepper, 2 tablespoons of garlic salt, a tablespoon of ground ginger. Now we have a tablespoon of ground mustard, a tablespoon of celery salt, 1 tablespoon ground black pepper, 2 teaspoons salt, 2 teaspoons dried thyme, 2 teaspoons basil, 2 teaspoons of oregano. And last but not least, secret spice number 12, MSG, 1 teaspoon. Give that a good blend, make sure it's all worked together. And there's a substantial amount of herbs and spices in there. For 2 cups of flour, we have just under 1 cup total of spices. So it is indeed a very spicy mixture and a lot of different flavors going on in there. Now we're going to add about 2 cups of this lovely concoction into a Ziploc bag. And we'll save the rest of that. We just don't need to use the whole thing. We're only doing about a dozen smelt. Next, we're just going to add a little bit of kosher salt onto our smelt. And what that's going to do is start drawing the moisture out of them. And as the moisture comes out, that's going to make the flour mixture stick better to them. And we're going to let these sit for about 10 minutes, just so that salt can kind of work and draw some of the moisture out of them, which is going to make the flour mixture stick to them better. Now we're going to put our smelt in the baggie. Seal up the bag and shake it up. I kind of massage these as I'm doing it to really get that flour into the body cavity of all the smelt. Really try to work them to make sure they're very well covered. I think that ought to do it. Now we're going to refrigerate these for about 15 minutes. And what that's going to do is kind of going to suck some of the moisture out of the fish. That's going to make the flour mixture stick to it better when we fry it. Pop these into the fridge. All right, we're ready to fry. We could certainly do this in the stovetop in a cast iron skillet. I'm a big fan of electric deep fryers. They hold a consistent temperature, really do a good job at frying fish. So this is a relatively cheap one. I think they got this for about 20 bucks, but that's all you need. You gotta work in small batches, but I think it's the best way to fry fish. I'm just gonna load this thing up with some canola oil. Now we're going to turn this thing on and set it to 350 degrees. What are you stealing all my airtime? All right, here we go, into the oil. These are going to go pretty quick. I'd say these are going to be done in about 4 minutes.
You even eat the tail?
Yeah, the tail's the best part, I think.
Tail in the eyes.
All right, anytime you're frying fish, your eyes and your ears are really the best way to tell when it's done. The bubbling right now is really stopping, it's slowing down, and that means that all the moisture is essentially out of these. So once the bubbles stop, your fish is done. Having technical difficulties here with my basket. And once these come out of the fryer, we're just going to touch them up with a little bit of salt.
Seagull swooping in again.
You're like regulars at the bar here now. Come on. Down the hatch. All right, fellers.
What's up?
The moment of truth.
Let's start with This is a totally new fish eating experience for me.
It's different. It's definitely different. And I've only had these a handful of times. And I've done them with more of a batter on them. I haven't tried doing them, to be honest with you, with just a flour type recipe. But the backbones are surprisingly tender. You'd think you'd get more crunch from them. It really ends up being just more of a little bit of chewiness from the backbone.
That's good. It's really good.
It's not bad.
Not bad.
So there's ribs in there. Like I noticed the ribs when I was cleaning, but they seemed.
You cook down to nothing.
Yeah.
And people like to have them in a hoagie sandwich.
Oh, like a po' boy.
And a po' boy.
Has that ever been done?
That's what I'm saying.
I'm sure it has.
I brought the rules this year to do it.
All right, so there you have it, Kentucky fried smelt. We ate the whole plate, so I assume you guys thought it was okay.
That was excellent.
It was a fun trip. We had a great time up there, and can't wait to eat more of these smelt. If you'd like to learn more about cooking our local fish, check out my column in On the Water magazine called Living Off the Land and Sea. Thanks for watching.